It's 5 a.m. The coffee is still hot when the first message comes in. You're sitting in a rented apartment in Zurich, fourth floor, corner unit, lease paid 6 months in advance, under a name that doesn't belong to you. Outside, the street is clean and quiet. People walk dogs. A tram passes. Everything about this city is designed to make you feel like the world is orderly and safe. That's exactly why you chose it. The message is 3 words. Eastern package delayed. You read it twice, set the phone face down on the table, and finish your coffee. Then you pick the phone back up and type 4 words. Find another route. Tonight. You send it and close the app. The app doesn't exist on any server. The conversation never happened. This is how it starts. Not with explosions, not with guns pointed at your face. It starts with logistics. You didn't come into this world through a recruitment poster or a shadowy organization that found you in a bar. You came in through a supply chain. 7 years ago, you were managing freight documentation for a mid-sized import company in Antwerp. Legal cargo, industrial components, machinery parts. You were good at paperwork, better at relationships, and exceptional at understanding how things moved across borders without drawing attention. Your supervisor noticed. Then his supervisor noticed. Then someone who had no official title but flew business class to every meeting noticed. 6 months later, you were managing a different kind of documentation. The machinery parts were still real. Some of them just had additional components that weren't listed. That was the first step. You barely felt it. By the time you understood what you were actually doing, you were already indispensable. The network you operate inside now has no name. There are brokers who use fancy titles: arms dealer, procurement specialist, defense contractor. You use none of them. You have a first name that changes by region and a reputation that doesn't need a title. What you do, at its core, is solve problems for people with money and a need for firepower. You source, you route, you deliver. You keep everyone at arm's length from each other. You are the only person in the chain who knows every link. That's what makes you valuable. That's also what makes you dangerous to keep alive. The call comes at 11. Not a message this time, an actual voice call, which means it's serious. The man on the other end is a logistics coordinator for a government you will never publicly name. He speaks in careful English, which tells you he's nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. You slow your own voice down deliberately when you respond. The problem is a shipment of armored vehicles, 42 units, already paid for, already loaded on a vessel that is currently sitting off the coast of Cyprus, waiting for clearance documentation that someone, somewhere, failed to file correctly. The government needs those vehicles in country within 9 days. There is an offensive operation scheduled. The vehicles are not optional. You tell him you'll call back in 2 hours. Then you make 4 calls. The first is to a port authority contact in Limassol. The second is to a documentation firm in Malta that exists entirely for situations like this. The third is to a shipping captain who owes you a favor from a deal in 2019 that kept him out of a Latvian prison. The fourth is to a man in Brussels who handles European transit permits and who you pay a flat monthly retainer specifically so that you never have to explain why you're calling. In 90 minutes, the documentation problem no longer exists. You call the government coordinator back. He thanks you profusely. You tell him the fee for the expedited resolution is $400,000, invoiced through a consulting firm registered in Luxembourg. He agrees without negotiating. People who are about to start a military operation do not negotiate. You write the invoice, you send it. You finish your second coffee of the morning. Here is what nobody tells you about this business. The violence is always somewhere else. You never see it. You see spreadsheets. You see wire transfers. You see cargo manifests and transit permits and satellite coordinates. The distance between your desk and the thing your desk enables is so vast, so deliberately constructed, that you can go weeks without thinking about it. The system is designed to create that distance. You did not design it. You simply learned to operate inside it. But the distance is not always infinite. 3 weeks after the Cyprus shipment clears, you see footage on the news. A column of armored vehicles moving through a mountain corridor. The reporter doesn't name the vehicles. You know the model number by the silhouette. You watch for 11 seconds, then change the channel. You do not feel what you expect to feel. That is the part nobody talks about.
The second active contract this month is more complicated. A non-state actor. You never use the word militia, you never use the word rebel. Those words carry legal weight you don't need. Operating in a region that is currently receiving military aid from the same government you just supplied vehicles to. They want small arms. Rifles, ammunition, portable anti-armor systems. Their representative is a man who meets you in person, which is already a violation of your standard protocol. He insists. You agree because the order is significant, and because the people he works for have a relationship with a larger network you cannot afford to alienate. You meet in Ljubljana, a hotel restaurant. Lunch. He is younger than you expected, well-dressed, speaks 4 languages. He slides a USB drive across the table under a napkin. You don't touch it yet. You order the fish. You talk about logistics in the abstract, using language so sanitized it could be a conversation between 2 freight consultants. The USB drive has a list of specifications and a destination. The funds are already escrowed in a structure you've used before. What he doesn't know, what almost nobody in your network knows, is that the government you supplied vehicles to 3 weeks ago is aware of this transaction. Not the specifics, but aware, and they are not displeased. The conflict continuing serves their interests. A negotiated peace does not. You supply both sides not because you are without ethics. You supply both sides because the demand exists regardless. If you step back, someone else steps forward. Someone less careful. Someone who doesn't ensure the documentation is clean, who doesn't maintain the separation, who creates exposure that gets people in expensive suits arrested and governments destabilized in ways nobody profits from. You have told yourself this so many times it has stopped feeling like justification and started feeling like engineering, like a clean, functional truth. You are the pressure valve. You are the controlled burn. The USB drive goes into your jacket pocket. You finish the fish. You leave a 20% tip in cash. The problem begins 6 days later. One of your routing contacts in Eastern Europe goes silent, not unusual on its own. People in this network disappear from communication for days at a time. Travel, caution, operational quiet. But this one was mid-conversation. A message cut off at a strange point. Not the end of a sentence. You sit with that for an hour before you decide it matters. You activate a secondary check through a contact in Warsaw. The response comes back in 12 hours. Your routing man was detained. Not arrested formally, detained informally, which is worse. Informal detention means someone is asking questions and not recording the answers. It means someone wants to know something specific and is willing to operate outside of channels to find it. The question you now have to answer is whether they're looking for the routing man, or whether the routing man is the route to you. You begin moving. Not panicking. Movement is not panic. Movement is protocol. You change apartments. You retire 2 phones. You notify 3 counterparties that you are entering a communication blackout of indeterminate length and that anything time-sensitive should be rerouted through the Malta firm. You transfer a specific allocation of funds to an account in a jurisdiction you've never used before. You pull a passport from the lining of a bag you packed 18 months ago for exactly this purpose. You've run this protocol twice before. Both times, it was a false alarm. Both times you emerged on the other side and the network continued. You don't know if this is a third false alarm. What you do know, sitting in a new apartment in a city you arrived in less than 4 hours ago, is that the machine does not stop. Somewhere tonight, a shipment is clearing customs under documentation your Malta contact filed. Somewhere, a captain is adjusting a course on a vessel you chartered through 3 layers of intermediary. Somewhere, two governments, on opposite ends of the same conflict, are each waiting on materiel that traces back to the same source, through different channels, with different paperwork, and no visible connection. The machine does not stop because the machine does not know you exist. That used to feel like power.
You open a new laptop, sealed, unregistered, purchased in cash from a shop in a city you passed through 6 weeks ago on a different matter entirely. You connect to a network you have never used from this location. You open a browser, you check 3 things in sequence: a shipping tracker, a financial dashboard, and a news aggregator filtered for 7 specific regions. Everything is moving. Everything is on schedule. You close the laptop. You sit in a chair by a window. You keep the curtain drawn across. Outside you can hear the city, whatever city this is tonight, going about its business. Ordinary people, ordinary noise. A world that functions on a surface level because somewhere beneath the surface, in rooms like this one, in conversations like yours, the demand for organized violence is being met in an orderly, professional, logistically sound manner. The phone on the table, the new phone, the clean one, lights up. A message, new contact, referral from someone you trust with your life, which means you trust them with about 60% of your life. The message is brief: a government, a need, a timeline. You read it twice. You pick up the phone. You begin to type.